Hello everyone, welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more exciting true crime content. Today we're looking at the details of brutal crimes carried out by a group of armed burglars who raided a series of properties and left frightened victims tied up and gagged that have been laid out in court. The ruthless thieves robbed a total of 6 deliberately targeted addresses while the occupants were held captive. The victims included a pregnant woman and her 3-year-old child, who was struck across the face in front of his parents to reinforce the raiders' demands for money. In another raid, a 63-year-old woman was dragged from her bed and suffered a heart attack, whilst another elderly woman was hit so hard it broke her eye socket. At Leicester Crown Court on October the 7th, the 4 men involved in the crimes were each jailed for between 11 and 19 years. Lee Heen, 30, of no fixed address, Sonny Brogan, 27, formerly of Aikman Avenue, New Parks, in Leicester, and Paul Bray, 33, formerly of Gretton Drive, Anstey, were found guilty of aggravated burglary offences by a jury following a 6-week trial. A 4th accomplice, Declan Winkles, 27, formerly of Kirkdale Road, South Wigston, admitted the same offences at an earlier hearing. During the aggravated burglaries, all in and around Leicester in December last year and January this year, the masked men forced entry into the properties and threatened the occupants with metal poles, batons, knives and screwdrivers. Items stolen in the burglaries included large amounts of cash, jewellery, including 2 Rolex watches worth more than £20,000 and an Audi RS7. The property stolen included items of great sentimental value and worth, including wedding and engagement rings. Each of you were well organised and prepared to quell the resistance of the occupants by submitting them to terror. All the victims were at home, some suffered significant physical injuries and all suffered psychological harm that continues today. It involved unnecessary violence and extreme ransacking on a grand scale. None of them will ever feel safe in their homes again, and many are in the process of moving, and one victim will never return home and sleeps in his car. The recorder said the defendants, excluding Mr. Winkles, were arrested on January 11th, having planned to commit another raid that night. He said their campaign of burglary would have continued if they had not been stopped. The raids were at houses in Wentworth Road in Newfoundland on December 15, 2020, Evington Lane, Evington on December 19th, Peawood Way, Thorpe Astley on December 21st, and Newfield Square, Brownstone on January 5th this year. A second conspiracy involved burglaries in Narborough Road South on January 4th and Bonville Place, Brownstone on January 9th. The recorder told Mr. Heen that he was the organiser and committed each of the burglaries along with Mr. Brogan, some on elderly, infirm and disabled victims, and had recruited extra muscle when necessary. He said that Mr. Brogan only accepted one burglary, claiming he thought the property was unoccupied, which was rejected by the court. The recorder said that Bray did not take part in every burglary, and Mr. Winkles played a part in most, if not all. None of them cared about the effect of their actions on the victims, and all 4 had criminal records, the recorder said. Before the jail terms were handed out, Mr. McAdam said that he recognised the defendants' families, including their children, who have done nothing wrong, would suffer because of the sentences he was about to impose. The court heard that Bray had recently been diagnosed with learning difficulties. Mr. Brogan had ADHD and his partner had given birth to their child while he was in custody, and Mr. Winkles' counsel said that his client deserved credit for his guilty pleas. First planned home invasion during the 3-week crime spree under the cover of darkness was at a home in Wentworth Road on Tuesday, December 15th, where a 65-year-old woman lived with 3 lodgers. Just after 10:30 p.m, the householder went to investigate her dog's barking, and in the garden was confronted by a masked man holding a metal bar. He punched her to the face and she felt a crack. Her feet came out of her slippers as she fell backwards and hit her head on a brick pillar. A second masked male grabbed her clothing and pushed her into the house, demanding, "Where's the safe?" whilst pointing a screwdriver towards her back. Injured and bleeding, the woman was held captive with the lodgers in a bathroom. One raider stood guard armed with a baton, while the others made threats of violence and ransacked the property looking for valuables, taking items gifted by the woman's late father, as well as £600 worth of jewellery and £1,680 in cash. The homeowner, who suffered multiple facial injuries, including a fractured eye socket which required an operation, said the incident was horrendous and her house was no longer a home. One of her lodgers never returned and now sleeps in a car. The 63-year-old wife, who had cardiac and spinal problems, was awoken at 10:30 p.m. by a male dressed in black and armed with a screwdriver in her bedroom. She was dragged out of bed and saw another 2 armed intruders. They were demanding money and gold from her 70-year-old husband. The terrified couple were held captive in a bathroom, where the woman was later diagnosed as having had a heart attack. The wife had been looking after £3,600 in cash to pay for a relative's funeral, which was stolen, along with another relative's gold necklace and earrings. Their mobile phones were also taken. They were left bound and gagged with tape, but the husband eventually freed himself and went to a neighbour for help. Their experience was described as a nightmare, with the wife saying in a victim impact statement, "God knows how I survived." In Haywood Road on Monday, December 21st, a young couple's home was invaded by 4 men who smashed their way indoors armed with 3 batons and a knife as forceful demands for valuables were made. The householder was struck with a baton and had a gold chain taken from his neck, and his partner was hit on the hand, which caused the agony of a natural fingernail being torn off and another partially removed. The burglars escaped with 2 Rolex watches worth £20,000 and an Audi car. The couple were tied up and had tape over their mouths. In Narborough Road South on Monday, January 4th, a couple with a disabled son were awoken by the intruders demanding gold and money. The wife was ordered to hand over the jewellery she wore in bed, a 22-carat gold necklace, earrings, and the wedding and engagement ring. Her husband's watch was on a table and was also taken. All the time this was going on, they were aware that another member of the team was in a bedroom of their child who was unable to walk. Miss Pittman said that one of the men, Mr. Heen, was very aggressive and appeared to be in control of the others. The husband in a statement described feeling angry and frightened, but also reassured people were caught. In Newfield Square on Tuesday, January the 5th at 11:30 p.m, a married couple with a 3-year-old son and a baby on the way were confronted by 4 burglars. The husband was punched twice in the face, kicked to the ground, and had a gold chain ripped from his neck. Miss Pittman said during the incident, one grabbed hold of the little boy's jaw and slapped his face. The burglars took £1,200 in cash. An empty safe was prized from a cupboard with a spade, and when the wife began screaming, saying that she was 14 weeks pregnant, she was threatened with violence with the shovel. The incident caused sleepless nights and extreme fear. In Bonville Place on Saturday, January 9th, 4 men broke into the home of a recently deceased woman. Her son, who was living there, was grabbed and suffered an injury as threats of violence were made and money demanded. The victim begged them not to go into his late mother's bedroom, but they searched it anyway. Although one of the men said sorry, the court was told. Mr. Heen was jailed for 19 years. Mr. Brogan was jailed for 16 years and 6 months. Mr. Bray, who separately admitted possessing crack cocaine for personal use on his arrest, was jailed for 13 years. Mr. Winkless was jailed for 11 years and 3 months. A 5th defendant, Javon Roach, 33, of Wellington Road, Birmingham, who also stood trial, was found not guilty. Afterward, the sentencing. Detective Sergeant Kevin Hames from the Leicestershire Forces Complex Investigation Team said, "This group were responsible for a series of exceptionally frightening incidents for the occupants of these properties. A number of the occupants required hospital treatment and suffered life-changing injuries." He added that all the victims had been exceptionally brave. Whether it was this gang's intention to or not, the gang consistently targeted the most vulnerable in our society: children, the elderly, even the disabled. No one was spared from their aggression. Luckily for these men, I'm no judge, but each of them had the option to stop one another and de-escalate the situation instead of allowing them to attack children, the elderly, and the disabled. I don't see that reflected in the sentences. I would have given them a lot longer personally.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and a share, and leave any thoughts or suggestions you have in the comments section. We love to read through them all. And if you're new but enjoy UK true crime content, then subscribe to see when our newest video releases. And as always, stay safe.